Hello, everyone. How are you in this auspicious time of humanity's cycles? I feel like my voice has had quite a bit of use in the last few days, um, being, I guess, a voice for alternative concepts and kind of reminded at the interactions that are occurring to those that use their voice to stand up for minorities, or the majorities that don't really stand up for themselves. Um, and yeah, reminded that if we now think opposite to the establishment, then we are just immediately a target. And I remember on my old radio show page, I had a meme that said, if you're not on a government watch list by now, you should be ashamed of yourself. And I think that meme became my banner in about 2005. So it's been a minute to digest the nature of what has been, I guess, termed conspiracy theories that predominantly, apart from some of the more uh, well, unrealistic jargon that comes out of, I would say, novice minds grasping onto anything that they see on social media without having any reference to historical perspectives or policies within the organizations that they are trying to incriminate. Not to say that they're not guilty, but every single one of those theories has, I guess, had a thesis done on it that's proven it to be fact. And I can't even mention stuff that maybe you're going to wish you knew in the present. We have to have these conversations in person or in another platform, which you're probably not going to find me on. Um, we could just discuss now the conspiracy of the fallacy of the money, the monetary system, the fiats, the false economies that have been propped up over years, literally since well, the dot-com bubble. To be honest, I don't even know if many of you even recall that, but yeah, not much has really shifted out of that bloated situation, which actually came off the back of almost a global recession. Um, Essentially, the last time that Saturn was in Pisces, but I'm not going to go down that path. Um, the wreconomics, that's a term coined by me on the Emergency show, that wrecks economics because that's how they take the money back. That's how they go ahead and encourage you all to get into debt, to turn ones and zeros into interest rates. And interestingly enough, in interest rates, I had to keep them pretty low for a while because, well, the economy was suffocating. That was the oxygen line. That kept zombie companies and zombie economies intact, being able to borrow to pay their dividends to make their shareholders not look like they were zombie companies. But they're still out there, and you need to exit that stuff should you have anything involved in it. For the most part, though, bank runs. Okay, now I'm not sure how many people in my circles have got lucrative bank accounts. And if so, is that in comparison to either cost of living or just the debts that need to be serviced in relation to the appearance of wealth? And I'm not going to be here to judge. We've all been told what to do. It's just if you listened, you're in more trouble than those that didn't. However, those that didn't are obviously in more trouble because we targeted. Anyway, it's a whole nother story. Um, I find it really funny that they're like commenting on inflation, right? Do you know they've been trying to get inflation into the global economy for the last 14, 15 years at least? It's not a small amount of time. 2008 on, yeah, inflation has been like below the 2% mark globally. Many of the European banks had to have negative interest rates, pay you to take debt, pay you to try and create money. But inflation's a funny thing. Inflation doesn't really work when you bail out banks, just in case the federal systems didn't pay attention to their mandates. You need to have circulatory money. How far does a single dollar travel in a day? How much trade is being bought and sold with that? And then, of course, dwindling Western economics is the key fundamental here. So, of course, there was going to be wars. Of course, there was going to be a crisis, and the consequences of the crisis are no small thing. Um, the only inflation that's been able to be created by the last couple of years is the quantitative easing, just the irresponsible handing out of money, which also didn't really get a lot of momentum, but it did devalue the local currencies across all Western QE stacked nations. And the devaluation of those currencies actually was the reason that prices increased. There were some supply shocks, of course. However, when they would have unraveled, they would have gone back to a close to original supply. We're always going to have skimming off the top, greed. It's economics, it's capitalism. It's about cashing in. That's the mandate. But the only way they could get rid of inflation was to create inflation was to pump money into the economy. Banks suffering immeasurably at the moment. What are they going to do? They're going to pull out the printing presses again. They're either going to bail out the banks or they're going to let the banks sink and they're going to let nations go into what they say is recessions, but will actually have to be depressions because, well, it's the state of economics in this current situation. The percentages of debt compared to our value, our worth, our savings, our GDP, all the things that really nobody pays any attention to because it seems complex. So I'm just going to keep getting into debt and hope for the best. And hopium, there's plenty of hopium. So um, cryptocurrency is getting a bit of a boost at the moment. And I just say at the moment, and good on them. If you know what to do with it, you'd be doing it with it already. If you knew what to do with it, it would cause a crash in it. which will happen anyway. But yeah, um, just again, you hear this shit first from the mouth that you don't want to hear it from because, well, it's not all roses and everything's going to be fine and sunny. And I'm not a light worker. I'll show you your shadow. I'll make you be friends with your shadow. And then your life might become a little bit more realistic, positive, and honest. God forbid it. So, yeah, the inflationary game at the moment, when they pump the economy back in with some more printing press, helicopter money, quantitative easing at the yin yang, more inflation, greater interest rates, higher debt levels servicing them, crash in asset markets, which are actually liabilities because we've discussed this. But anyway, you want to call them assets, and you can until they're not in your hands anymore. So unless you have, I think, like 40% left on your mortgage, if you've paid off 60% of your mortgage, you might be okay. If you've got anything greater than 40% to go on your mortgage, we've got another decade at least before anything is going to change in a financial world. We are likely to have 1 million people in Australia jobless within the next 12 months. That's easy. And you know what? That's only 5% unemployment rate. It could easily go to 10%. And it's not just people losing the work that they've got, but losing the businesses that they have. So, yeah. And then, of course, if you do anything that AI can take over, well, you need to retrain now because you're just not going to succeed in competing against AI because you just don't want to work that hard and you can't work that fast. Okay, so, Pluto and Aquarius, deaths to societies, rebirths of systems, rebirth of monetary systems, rebirth of revolutionary systems, rebirth of industrialized systems. So it's good to be forewarned of these things. How many people are, which I find really intriguing considering how much worship there is in terms of the dollar. And yet again, I keep saying nobody really understands it at all. So, yeah, I would be speculating quite ridiculously at the moment. I would be taking advice, not from financial advisors that are working in the system, because they are clueless and they are desperate to save their own skins in a system that is not going to play nice to anyone involved in it. So, yeah, I'd be looking outside the box because the box was a trap. The box that you bought on a quarter-acre block of land in some suburb, and you have to put a bigger fence up because you just don't want to know your neighbours and community's never going to come out of it, is a trap. And you're never going to survive on your own. No one ever did. And it's not about start now. And if you think that you can, then you're not thinking. And I wouldn't give yourself any credit for intelligence. And I'm saying that was sugar coated on top, with a whole fucking layer of compassion slapped all over that in the forefront, forewarned, so you can make some intelligent choices about what you're going to do with your life. Because, yeah, the system's not, you know, got some damage and it can be repaired. The system's completely outdated and broken and needs to be put out with the rubbish. And we need to put another one that relates to more of the cultural aspects of societies that we seem to have shunned and ridiculed for whatever period of time, that ignorance has played a part of us thinking that we're better than everybody else. That is the biggest shame. So anyway, it's a bit of a bigger rant than I thought I would deliver, but I recommend the level of attention that one might pay to be heightened state. Not the low vibrational, I'm gonna only cross the line of truth, cross my alignment of truth at some hertz of, I don't know, 18 hertz, 20 hertz is all going to hurt. We're talking like 20-meter waveforms there. I'm expecting we're at least above 10 kilohertz. Okay, that's 10,000 cycles per second. Cycles across the line of truth, the alignment of understanding. Because there's no ripcord in this, I'm sorry to say. Unless, of course, you've decided to just respond right now. You might have one. But yeah, I've just had a bit of a laugh lately. That sort of witnessing how people think that the circumstances have already occurred, and that the last couple of years has just not been a warm-up at all. So I hope you stretched your muscles. For the most part, people are going to need to be using them. More of that sitting on their asses, cashing in. No, it's a very different life from here on in. So I wish everybody well, and I have a lot to offer, and I'm really willing and able to deliver on that with like 35 to 40 years of experience in it. So yeah, no plagiarist here. Just hard, cold truth that influencers and reluctant messiahs just are not the same. False prophets and the fallacy of wreconomics that's occurred in the disastrous states of democracy and what they've called capitalism and all of these terms that are just not by definition true. People sling them around as if they are a, I don't know, educated individual. And it's quite obvious that they're not. So, buckle your seatbelts, Dorothy. Because, yeah, Kansas is going bye-bye. With love, respect, and a lot of compassion. The Fluid Druid is out.